I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him from as Voxtradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead, Keri Ingraham from the Independent Women's Forum on getting schooling for your kids that actually works. Ed Kovalik drops a dose of knowledge about oil facts. And Elizabeth Bennett of AFPI returns to remind us what America First really looks like. And in hour 2, a special report from Dr. John Eibner, live from our nation's capital. And in the spotlight, it's Emerson Day. And now from Times Square, where the jumbotrons are large, but Obama's ego is larger, an ex-president orchestrating sabotage against his successor, here's the Kevin!
All right, welcome in, friends. Good to have you for the weekend. So glad to be able to just put you in the right frame of mind, especially when we've had the kind of week that we've had, given the kind of news that's come out. This week was a bad week for those who thought that their deeds were going to be permanently buried forever. And by those, I mean you, Mr. Brennan and Clapper and Ms. Rice and Mr. Obama and Mr. Biden. All y'alls thought that your crimes, your dastardly deeds in 2017 were gone for good. And a former Democrat, maybe still a current Democrat, independent at least, Tulsi Gabbard, was the one who exposed you. Not some Trump sycophant, some mega flyover country redneck. No, Tulsi Gabbard, just a little while ago, was serving Congress as a Democratic representative. This is where we're at, friends, and it's very, very interesting. The relay of events, because if you watched the people that were exposed by Tulsi this week, and by the way, I'm all for the Kash Patel, Pam Bondi strike force to go get everybody involved in this. But when you see the level of sheer panic that weak sauce Obama responded with in his statement release on Tuesday night, of course, he's going to say, well, that was just one of my staff members. I didn't really release that. But he basically said something that argued against a point no one was making. And he thought it made him look like he had addressed the issue that Tulsi had brought up, only for Tulsi to release 100 more pages of his crimes. This is really the remarkable thing. And I watched Tulsi and Caroline Levitt at that news conference on Wednesday. It was a work of art. How Tulsi didn't lose one little flinch of energy towards Caitlin Collins and her sourpuss and everybody else that was in the room, saying, well, how could you say all this? What about, and you heard what their questions consisted of, right? How can you say this when all these other committees found no wrongdoing? Well, guess what? The Director of National Intelligence has access to intelligence that those committees didn't. And as they dug deeper, the DNI found more and more problematic behavior. And it's not just that Hillary and her campaign commissioned the debunked, investigative report. It's not just enough that people told the administration that it was bad. It's not just enough that they held a meeting to discuss about it. What makes this horrendous and way over the top, because it would be bad if all of that was just true and they said, okay. But we have documentation of them saying, no, we don't like your assessment, do a new assessment. And when the new assessment came back and they said, well, it's in keeping with what you wanted, but it goes against the facts, Obama put the thumb on the scale and he said, do it anyway. Biden was right there with him. Clapper was right there with him. Brennan was with him. Comey was with him. They said, and it wasn't, hear me clearly on this, it's not that they did this to Donald Trump. That would be horrendous if they singled out a single American citizen and said, we're going to thwart your ability to run for office or try to keep you from obtaining something. Just a campaign against a single citizen would be one thing. This was an attack against the sovereignty of the votes of the people of the United States. This was an attack against you. This was an attack against me, against our families, against our communities. When you look at the 3 elections back to back, when you see that Donald Trump, through his very simple idea of just trying to say, I'm just going to refocus our priorities to make America the priority in everything that we do, from foreign policy to domestic policy to economic policy. We're going to focus on making America stronger in all of these different ways. That was his whole message in 2016. It didn't change in 2020. It didn't change in 2024. And you see the overwhelming number of people that came into each election cycle to support him on that message, more than had ever voted for any president in the history of the country. Just think of that. Even in his loss in 2020, he gained 11 million more votes as an incumbent than he did when he ran in 2016. And no president in the modern era has increased the number of votes they've had turn out for them in their second win. None. And he blew it away. Why did he do that? How did he do that? Because the policies that he's championing, and we're seeing it again in this term, are the ones that you and I looked at and said, that's what we want. That's what we need. We need those policies to be what is guiding the principle of how our nation operates. And in the first turnaround, the Russia collusion hoax hung over him day after day after day for months on end into his presidency. Not only that, he had backstabbing cabinet secretaries in very important departments that kept taking pieces of flesh out of him, trying to slow him down. All part of the establishment coup. The coup that Obama did execute. The coup that they did see through to fruition. The coup that they said, we know the material is factually false and we're going to use it and we're going to lie to the people anyway. Friends, this wasn't an attack against Donald Trump. It was an attack that ended up impacting Trump because it was an attack against you, your choice, the things that you valued in terms of being important in your election priorities. It turned out not to be the new Green Deal. It turned out not to be transgenderism in your kid's school. It turned out not to be all of the other social programs that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden and AOC and Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren all want to see come into fruition. It was that you were choosing the wrong priorities and you were choosing the wrong candidates. And by doing so, you were a threat to their power and their ability to stay in office. You, my friend, were the problem. You had to be stopped. And so President Obama didn't commit crimes really, in essence, against Donald Trump. Donald Trump happened to be the blast shield. He happened to be the guy that was in the way because he said, I'm going to stop all of the stuff that I see going wrong in the country. And he'd been seeing it for years. They didn't like you, friend. You were the offense to the Democratic Party. Those of you that were in the Democratic Party and watching what was going on and waking up and going, I don't want this to be the case anymore. People like Tulsi Gabbard, who left the party and said, I just want to be an American. I don't want to be bought and sold by idealists who think that their way is the only way. I love my country. They did that against you. So Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, everybody else that's involved, go with the strike force. Find accountability everywhere that it needs to be held accountable, and go get those people. I'm Kevin McCullough. Huge show straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for all things necessary, social media, email, podcasts, all of it. We don't put any of it behind a paywall. It's 100% free. And if you want to sign up for the newsletters, whether it's the travel letter or the TV Insider or even the other things that we have offered there, please do so. Would love to have you be part of the ongoing community of That Kevin Show as we try to think our way with common sense through the big problems of the day. My next guest is someone who is thinking outside the box when it comes to what real education means to real students who need to live real lives and have real jobs and make real money. And I'm very happy to have Keri Ingraham joining us. She's an Independent Women's Forum's fellow and also a fellow at the Discovery Institute, two organizations that I'm really, really happy to be associated with for all their good work. Keri, it's your first time on the broadcast. Thank you for being here. Welcome. For a long time, my colleague Dennis Prager had been kind of, noodling on my brain about inventive ways to get kids both motivated to learn, but also to get them prepared for life. And backing up the camera a little bit, my theory is that parents are the ultimate educators. They're the ones ultimately responsible for how the kid turns out. And ultimately, if they are good parents, they want to see their kids thrive and not fizzle and not struggle. They want them, in other words, to be best equipped for what they can do. And increasingly, it's my feeling, and I've said this, but it parrots something that Dennis has said for a long time, is that the university experience and education is far too costly to be effective for what real achievement can accomplish. And I just rewatched the documentary about New York City, and you see how the trades came up as Manhattan in particular was built. And there were people that made really good livings doing lots of things that didn't have a college degree associated with it. I'm not against college. I think that college has value, and if my kids are interested, I'm going to help them pursue that. But I'm not necessarily making it mandatory. You've recently authored something for the places that you represent along the lines of this type of thinking, but it has to do with how we organize schools, particularly in America. What's your premise, and why do you feel so strongly?
Well, such an honor to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity. Recently, I authored a policy brief called The Case for Industry-Specific High Schools. And what it outlines is a straightforward opportunity to modernize education in our country. Because to your point, college is not providing the on-ramp that most students need in our country to a high growth or a very up-and-coming industry that is hiring. A lot of kids go through the university, they're saddled with debt, and they come out with a degree that's misaligned to the jobs market. And we're seeing more and more parents saying, even if finances weren't an obstacle, I don't want to send my child after high school to a four-year college. Last year, the Wall Street Journal put out a report that showed nearly half of parents felt that way, that college wasn't what they wanted for their child. And 2/3 of high school students as of last year said that they don't think they need college. And so we've got to relook at how are we giving kids an education that's going to prepare them so when they exit high school and they're not going on to college, they're ready to be contributors to society through something they're excited about. They're able to use a passion to do something meaningful with their life. But if we're not reinventing high school, we're simply not preparing kids. And then they get out and they don't have a plan and they don't have an on-ramp.
Yeah. And increasingly, not only is college expensive, increasingly it works against the goals and intent and purposes of what the parents would like to see it accomplish in the kids' lives, even to the degree that it sometimes undermines parents and like faith traditions and other things that the family may hold very, very important in their own way of thinking. There's a couple of things that I think are at work here, and I would like to get your reaction to it. One is I think if you had specialized high schools, and, you know, way back in the day, even New York City public schools kind of went that direction. You had technical high schools and you had art schools and you had different things that kids could kind of focus on and apply for and achieve. It hadn't been that way in a long time. And now it's, you know, it's kind of one size fits all in terms of education federally across the country. We try to turn out, you know, carbon copy kids all the time. I really think that robs the kids of some of what I believe God put in them in terms of individual skills and passions and stuff you were talking about. I remember hearing all the time when I was growing up, do what you love and you never work a day in your life. I have largely been a beneficiary of that way of thinking. I love communications. I love what I do. It never feels like I have a day at work because I just so am impassioned by what I do. I want the same experience for my kids. Add to that part of the picture, this idea that with the internet kind of leveling everything, where kids can learn stuff faster than it can be taught, I think a lot of kids are going to find financial opportunity in starting online businesses or starting entrepreneurial endeavors in other ways. And I'm so thankful that you're taking a look at least one piece of the need to rethink education, because we haven't been meeting the needs of kids for a long time.
Yes, definitely. One size fits all is a disservice to the vast majority of kids. It truly doesn't fit them. It doesn't fit the future that they're going to enter, the professions that need to hire students with skills. And more employees are eliminating that requirement of a bachelor's degree and saying, we're going to value character, hard work, as well as industry knowledge and hands-on skills. I want to give you an example of a school that's been around for 15 years, very cutting edge. It's the West Michigan Aviation Academy up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Right. And it was founded in 2010 by Dick DeVos, so businessman, but he was a pilot as well. He's been a pilot for nearly 25 years. And what he saw was we have a pilot shortage in this country, yet it's a field that doesn't require a college degree. And the average pilot salary is over $188,000 per year, where the average American salary across fields is under $60,000. So it's $128,000 per year higher, doesn't take a college degree. So he said, how can we expose students to this, unlock a passion, strategically meet a need that's going to keep growing, travel in our country?
Oh, and we've had a pilot shortage for years.
Absolutely. So he's doing something about it. He's using his passion, his connections there in Grand Rapids, right by the airport, to have a school where kids have this on-ramp. And it's not just to become licensed pilots. They're also getting certified in drones. They're learning biomedical things, as well as STEM courses. Students can take up to 20 engineering courses throughout their high school experience. So absolutely cutting edge. And what it's doing is it's giving students the opportunity to discover something they may not otherwise have come across. He said many students come to this school who have never been in an airplane in their life. And by the time they graduate, they're set up for success to go on to be a pilot.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square, thatkevinshow.com for everything related, whether it's social or you want to drop me an email or just catch up on the latest podcasts, TV shows, radio broadcasts, everything's there. My column is there from Town Hall. Ed Kovalik is my guest, and we are talking about the energy challenges of the next season of life, and the big beautiful bill, of course, clearing the way for a lot more production of domestic energy, which is what we're going to need. Ed, a lot of people don't know this, but in spite of the fact that solar and air have never been more implemented across the country, despite the fact that, we have had nuclear in the past, we're kind of soft pedaling it now and have gone backwards in some instances, at least in America, that despite all these other options, that fossil fuels continue to be the runaway majority use of what we use to do any number of things. And in these first 2 weeks of this campaign, I've been reading a commercial every day that says that that in the last 100 years, since fossil fuel use became normalized, we've literally saved billions of lives. Can you expound on that? How were billions of lives impacted by the development of fossil fuels?
Well, starting with, the foundation of being alive and staying alive, we have to eat. And, the mega food systems that we have developed around the world to feed, billions of people wouldn't be possible without fossil fuels. So all the cultivation machines, that we have grown accustomed to, the refrigeration of food and transportation, the transportation itself, none of that would really be possible without fossil fuels. And so that's a good place to start. If we did away with fossil fuels, didn't replace it with something that was as energy dense, well, then billions of people would starve, which is counter our mission to promote human flourishing. So at the end of the day, no other energy system can do the same thing as fossil fuels. There's been a lot of focus, again, on renewables, which is really kind of a misleading term. Solar and wind really are just ways to harness whatever low density form of energy is abundant in nature, which is sunlight and, wind. But those are hugely inefficient because the sun only shines so many hours a day, the wind only blows so many hours a day in so many places in the world. And just the systems that are required to be able to harness those powers are really, really dirty. I don't know if you've ever seen a lithium strip mine or, a rare earth mineral strip mine, but it's a lot dirtier than what we do in drilling for oil and gas.
Yeah. Well, and you have to have all those things to do the new, quote, green options. And in fact, there was a little bit of I don't know if it would be, I guess it would be kind of a symbol of this, but just this last week, there was a major turbine blown off of a wind operation that landed on an expressway in Maryland. I think it was US Highway 70. And the turbine's prop was so long that it kind of covered all four lanes of the interstate that it sat there on. But I thought, you know what? That doesn't look terribly different than the big holes they bury them in Texas.
Yeah,
they get old and don't work anymore. And I thought that's kind of a symbolic picture of like the wind and solar industry. I mean, I like salads. I like lettuce. I will eat it. It doesn't provide a lot of energy for my body, and trying to fuel my life off of eating lettuce is not probably very advisable. I kind of feel like solar and wind are like the lettuce component of the energy diet of our country. Like, we might need them. They might be helpful in some ways, but they're not going to get it done.
That's exactly right. They're complementary to our energy ecosystem, just the way a salad is great on the side of your meal. But like you said, you can't just eat salad and hope to survive.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, these systems really just aren't that efficient. And so the amount of waste and unnecessary environmental degradation as a result of mining the elements needed for these energy systems, building these things that only work so many hours in a day, that have to be replaced and junked every fewer than 10 years. It's wildly inefficient. It's quite the opposite of what it's being touted as in terms of being this panacea to an energy transition for the world.
Well, it's hugely wasteful.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back, Times Square. Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com. Have you thought about food security lately? How secure your food chain, the chain process is for your food that gets to your table? You may not have, but it is an increasing concern at the national level, and that's why America First Policy Institute is actually taking it on, addressing it, and we are so pleased to have Elizabeth Tate Bennett with us. She was previously a special assistant to President Trump on the issue of agriculture, trade, and food assistance, and now she is working with AFPI, helping further those America First goals. She also worked with Larry Kudlow over at the National Economic Council. Elizabeth, good to have you with us.
Yes, sir. It's great to be here.
When we talk about food security, and there's this whole MAHA, Make America Healthy Again element of this too, and moms are super happy with where we're headed with food dyes and a lot of those types of things, big wins in the early first 6 months here. But I want to stay on food security for a little bit because there has been, at least in circles that I run in, and I'm based in New York, we're not particularly rural here, but I still hear a lot of grumbling about our food chains not being secure, that our food supplies are often sometimes even more at risk than we would like them to be. And there is a strategic element that I think even our enemies would like to take advantage of or exploit in how Americans utilize and get their food. So from that kind of 35,000 foot level, give us the overview of what the picture is in terms of American diet.
Of course. I think one thing that you could look at and point to that the administration has really taken on that I think prior administrations really hadn't delved into yet was the issue, to your point, of farm security, food security is national security. Less than a month ago on June 8th, Secretary Rollins with Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretary Hegseth, and many others from the states who've been active on this issue stood in front of USDA and unrolled a national farm security action plan that highlights solutions to the issues you've inquired about. So first and foremost, Chinese ownership and adversarial ownership of farmland, I think, is where you were getting. First and foremost, they are cracking down on that issue. There is a FIDA. It is the statute that governs reporting of foreign adversarial ownership of farmland. They are tightening up, ratcheting up civil penalties under that federal statute. They are demanding more reporting requirements more than ever. And that is an effort to match sort of where the states have gone. The states have sort of been the laboratories of democracy on this one. They have been at the forefront. Arkansas is one that acted early. South Dakota, of course. Nebraska acted last year, really trying to ban adversarial ownership of farmland. And so the federal government is doing what they can to meet them where they are, to crack down on our adversaries, just trying to tap into our food supply.
It's not just the ownership of property or even proximity to farms that I'm concerned about. We have seen headlines where grain supply and supplies of mass-produced food have become vulnerable. And I remember just a couple of years ago, kind of mid-Biden term, a series of stories of continual, like, there were like chicken farms that were like burning to the ground. And we had all kinds of just weird things that were going on, mostly in rural America, mostly impacting farmers and the crops that were being produced, whether it be animal or plant-based. And I had a ton of people asking me, saying, Kev, does anybody have any idea what's going on? I'm not saying that we had one adversary that was specifically targeting us in some specific way, but there were certainly a lot of odd and suspicious things. Have we seen a decrease in that since Trump came to office?
Well, they're certainly attacking it. Other measures in that plan aim to address things like this. So just a month or so ago, we saw 2 University of Michigan, visiting fellows bring in a harmful pathogen that can cause blight. I'm a farm girl, but blight is something that's very deadly to our crops. DOJ has taken action on them, but they were...
And that pathogen was also deadly to cattle and to humans, if I remember correctly.
It can affect humans, but especially damaging to our food supply. It causes blight, which is of the utmost concern. So fortunately, DOJ is on it, cracking down on them. Have you heard of the New World screwworm by chance?
No.
So that is one coming up, approaching Mexico. We don't want it too close to our borders. In fact, Secretary Rollins has shut down the southern border for cattle entry because of concerns of this deadly parasite, again, lethal to the national food supply. You know, the administration has done such a good job getting egg prices down because the highly pathogenic, another one, avian influenza, which can be deadly. You know, we don't need to be messing with yet another issue of New World screwworm. So they've shut that down as well. And just really trying to onshore our supply chains, to your point about too much dependency abroad, whether it's our crop protection tools, our fertilizers. We need to make sure the critical minerals going into our fertilizers are onshored here. You know, it runs the gamut of what you could be concerned about, but fortunately, they have an aggressive action plan.
Well, and I think this all plays into, you know, making America great again directly, because for a long time, farms have felt on some level disrespected by the government and the important role that they play in feeding our country. And I just feel like that we've got to do all that we can. Food, clean air, clean water. These are the things that actually sustain life. Let's flip over to the other part of what you do as part of the MAHA agenda. What are your efforts there? As I've already said, they've had some huge wins right out of the gate. And McCary and Kennedy and these guys, they really seem to be focused on what I think those suburban moms specifically sent them to Washington to do, which was to make our diets healthy.
No, exactly. I'm a farm girl, but I have a lot of suburban mom friends, and they seem to be very pleased with what they're seeing. Of note, USDA has approved 6 SNAP waivers to restrict what states can sell with SNAP dollars. So SNAP, otherwise known as food stamps, it's the supplemental nutrition, emphasis on nutrition assistance program.
That doesn't include Gushers and Hershey's?
It does not include soda. It does not include soda, but they're actually, and it really doesn't now. It actually historically had up until the Trump administration.
Elizabeth Bennett doing a great job with AFPI on those 2 fronts. Thank you for spending some time with us this time.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back. That Kevin.
Well, I sold out years ago and I'm a coward and now I'm being canceled. The network says it's because I'm not funny anymore and nobody watches my show, but that's never mattered in the past, so I think it's because I speak truth to power and they hate that. They're a bunch of dirty, rotten fascists.
Oh my God, Steven, what's wrong?
I sold out years ago and I'm a coward.
Aw, buddy, are you upset because you won't be able to make $15 million a year for being really annoying anymore?
Yes.
Would you feel better if I got the guys together and we tried to get your job back?
I guess so.
All right then. Guys, Steven lost his job as an irritating late-night host, and we need to help him get it back.
Oh my God, you lost your job?
Oh, you'll never believe this. But the network said it's because he's not funny and his show doesn't make any money.
Well, that's just insane. None of our shows make money.
You're right, Jimmy. That's why we need to help him. You see, Steven was only the first of us to fall. It's only a matter of time until none of us make $15 million a year for being really damn annoying.
So if we beg George Cheeks, the CEO of CBS, to give Steven his job back, it'll save all of our jobs?
Wait, his name is George Cheeks? George, we demand you give Steven his job back. If you don't, then you're a George Butt Cheeks. Shut the hell up, Fallon.
George, I sold out years ago and I'm a coward, so you have to give me my job back.
Absolutely not, Steve. In fact, I'm surprised all of you haven't been canceled. I don't know if you guys knew this, but networks are trying to reach more people than just divorced women and men who wear things from Lululemon.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come. Get this hour, a very important, unique special report from Dr. John Eibner, live from the nation's capital, with insights on persecution and freedom for the Armenian people and why no one has covered it. Plus, more sketch comedy, Al Berry, and also the Babylon Bee. And back in the spotlight, it's Emerson Day. And now, from Times Square, where secrets go to die and CNN goes to lie, it's the cover-up that failed, and the receipts are in. Here's the Kevin!
For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. DNI Tulsi Gabbard, who apparently still has a conscience and a functioning flashlight, confirmed this week that deep state actors actively suppressed evidence that would have exposed the Trump-Russia hoax for what it was: fiction in a pantsuit. Turns out the real collusion was happening in Georgetown boardrooms, not Moscow hotels. But don't worry, the same people who rigged it all have declared themselves the guardians of democracy. How convenient. Speaking of fiction, Russian satellite intel now alleges that Hillary Clinton was heavily tranquilized while the Russia hoax was being cooked up, which honestly explains a lot. If you're going to greenlight a conspiracy theory that turns the country upside down, might as well do it on sedatives. Makes those yoga emails and wiped servers go down easier. CNN leapt into action like a drugged-up cat, declaring all of it a distraction from the Epstein files, which they then also refused to cover. Meanwhile, Brian Koberger, the Idaho College murder suspect, was transferred to a maximum security prison this week after his conviction, which is notable since most blue state criminals only reach maximum security if they shoplift over $950 and aren't wearing a mask. The courts were also busy rewriting reality. A federal appeals court ruled against Trump's executive order to restrict birthright citizenship for children born to illegal immigrants because apparently enforcing immigration law is now considered extremist. Next up, outlawing front doors because they discriminate against people without the keys to them. Over in daytime delusion land, reports say The View may be the next on the chopping block after Joy Behar's latest shrieking meltdown about Trump triggered a national spike in blood pressure and a quiet suggestion that it might be time to switch her meds from rage to retirement. Stateside, a new TikTok hotel coffee hack suggests using your in-room iron to brew your morning joe. Experts warn this could impact sleep, not because of caffeine, but because if you're ironing your Folgers, you're likely making other life decisions that need professional intervention. Meanwhile, the entertainment world said goodbye to rock legend Ozzy Osbourne this week. Despite bats and booze and a neurologist's nightmare of a medical history, he still outlived cable news and 3 generations of politicians who couldn't carry a tune or a spine. And finally, Congress is considering relaxing restrictions on drones. Yeah, good idea. Because what could go wrong with millions of underemployed tech bros now legally allowed to fly sky Roombas over your backyard barbecue? You thought the pigeons were bad. Oh, and this. If you're on Ambien, doctors now say you should skip some professions altogether, like being an airline pilot, flying drones, hosting The View, running covert political ops, all of that from your basement. Maybe just reach for the chamomile. Save yourself the trouble. For Assignment Desk Weekend.
Good afternoon. In light of continued public discourse surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, we've called this press briefing in the interest of full transparency to the public. Here are our official findings as concluded through an exhaustive investigation funded by your hard-earned tax dollars. The FBI has conclusively determined that Jeffrey Epstein did indeed kill himself. And there is no, and I repeat, no client list. There never was a client list. There never will be a client list. When Attorney General Pam Bondi made the claim that the client list was sitting on her desk, she was actually referring to a menu for a new Chinese restaurant called Client List that had recently opened across the street from her office. And quite frankly, we find it odd that you're still talking about Epstein. This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all the things, and you people are still talking about this guy, this creep. That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time? Anyway, while we have you guys here today, I'll take this opportunity to address our findings in several other outstanding investigations. It's important the public understands the realities behind these cases and the importance of our work here at the FBI. So, next case. We've conducted a comprehensive review of the financial records of every sitting member of Congress. After exhaustive analysis, we can officially report not a single instance was found where a bribe, improper payment, or personal financial incentive influenced the voting decision of any member of Congress ever. No takebacks. Additionally, in response to persistent public inquiries, we assigned a special task force to conduct a frame-by-frame forensic review of Star Wars: A New Hope. The FBI has conclusively determined that Han absolutely did not shoot first. In fact, evidence suggests he may not have fired his blaster at all. Furthermore, a growing contingent within the Bureau is now exploring the theory that there is actually no such thing as a Han Solo. Moving on. The FBI recently acquired a previously lost letter from O.J. Simpson dating June 12, 1994 that reads, "I, O.J. Simpson, hereby swear that I have no intention of murdering Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. P.S. There are no gloves that can possibly fit the juice." So that seems fairly conclusive. Case closed. Regarding the JFK investigation, the Bureau wishes to clarify its official position based on a preponderance of forensic, ballistic, and medical analysis. We have concluded that President John F. Kennedy was not assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald, but rather simply the tragic victim of a rare and devastating medical condition referred to within the medical community as spontaneous head exploding syndrome. It's a real thing. All right. I have an important VHS tape of The Rise of Skywalker to review, so let's get through the rest of these pretty quickly. Okay. Swiper did no swiping. Diddy didn't diddle. There are 5 lights. Ben Shapiro is 5'9". Islam is a religion of peace. Yes, that is Trump's natural skin color. Obama is 100% straight. Jews don't control the weather. The government is highly efficient. Cholesterol is bad for you. The dress is white and gold. We've always been at war with East Asia. And finally, Admiral Rachel Levine is definitely a woman. Thank you. There will be no further questions.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Back to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for everything related to the show, including our social media, including the opportunity to help us free and rescue more slaves with our friends at Christian Solidarity International. Get the podcasts, email me, do all that stuff. It's one spot now, thatkevinshow.com. Don't have to go to all these other places. It's just in one convenient place. You can do that super easily. Speaking of Christian Solidarity International, one of my, I just love this organization, and I have for years. They have done such good work on the front of telling the story of how faith is being used to, in negative ways, manipulate populations, persecute people, sometimes take innocent lives, just for simply believing in the faith that has been practiced since the beginning of time. And in doing so, we have had the chance to tell you not just about the Sudanese slave effort, which you are helping us again with this year, but also over the last couple of years, Dr. Joel Veldkamp has joined me on multiple occasions to discuss the ongoing saga of the Armenian people, and specifically the ancient Armenian city of Nagorno-Karabakh. Here on U.S. soil, Dr. John Eibner, who has been a guest in the past, but we haven't talked to him in a while, has been just in recent days speaking with government leaders, think tank leaders, thought leaders across the country, and he joins us now from Washington, D.C. to update us on all of this. John, first of all, it is great to see you face to face. Thank you for making the time, and welcome to That Kevin Show. It's good to have you back.
Well, thank you. It's great to be back, and I must thank you, Kevin, for all that you're doing on behalf of the persecuted parts of the body of Christ, not only the Sudanese slaves, but so many others around the world whose voices are not heard. So thank you for being their voice.
I appreciate that. I would not have the passion that I have for it had I not met CSI a number of years ago, and I'm grateful for all that you do, John. I know that you have spent, CSI is kind of a disparate organization. There's a part of you that is in world capitals, talking to government leaders, talking to people about public policy, and then there's the people on the ground that are in places like Sudan that are really kind of executing the game plan. And it's very it's kind of two different organizations doing different things, but they're all under one roof. And I'm grateful for both ends of what you're doing. But you've been engaging that public policy end of your work this week. You've spoken with some people. Who did you talk to, and what did you tell them about Nagorno-Karabakh?
Well, we've just really concluding today a set of meetings with people in the administration and people on the Hill. So we started off really with the State Department, two acting assistant secretaries of state, the competent people. One that deals with Europe and Eurasia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan fit under that umbrella. And then also the acting assistant secretary for democracy and human rights and their staffs. Then just yesterday, we met with senior people in the National Security Council, mainly those connected with the Vice President Vance. And then we had a public briefing. Congressman Chris Smith helped us with that. Chris Smith is, has been a stalwart champion.
One of New Jersey's proudest, and we're so thankful that it's still there.
And rightly so. So we had really 200 people. It's almost unprecedented for a congressional briefing attending that event. And then we've dealt with various offices on the Hill, on the House side, and at the Senate, on the Senate side.
What has been the reception, and what is the message? What are you asking them to do at this point? Because
the message,
for my viewers, I just want to catch them up. There was kind of a siege underway on Nagorno-Karabakh for much of the last couple of years, and then eventually Azerbaijan just took over, just possessed the area and expelled all of the Armenians, or most of them. So now that is the circumstance, what is the outcome, and what are you hoping Congress will do?
Right. Well, this Christian community, ancient Christian community, was under siege, blockade for 9 months. Azerbaijan, a Muslim Turkic country, was starving them into submission, and eventually led a military assault that drove the people into neighboring the Republic of Armenia, which is nearby. And so that was an act of ethno-religious cleansing. There are no more Armenian Christians in this area. They've been wiped out. They now live as refugees, not even with Armenian citizenship. So they're in a desperate situation. The particular issue, or the particular thing that we're pushing right now in Washington, is called the Swiss Peace Initiative for Nagorno-Karabakh, for this region. Why is it Swiss? Because there is a Christian member of the Swiss parliament who went to Armenia, who talked to the displaced people and couldn't believe what he heard from them. And they actually asked him to do something. And this is what they said they wanted. They didn't say they want our armies coming in to fight over them or big initiatives. They simply wanted to be able to have a platform to speak with those that drove them out about conditions that would enable them to return to their homes. That's what they want. They have no other political agenda, just to go home to their own homes, live in peace and security with their own churches, their own cemeteries, their own community.
What is the, because for people that are just turning us on for the first time and haven't heard past discussions on this, there's a lot of catch up to be done for most people on this. Azerbaijan didn't want ethnic Armenians living in Nagorno-Karabakh. Why? Why were they intent on expelling them?
Okay. Both Azerbaijan is a Muslim state. The people are Turkic. They regard themselves as one nation with Turkey. They're one people. They coordinate their policy. They say one nation, two states. Those of you who have some idea of history may have heard of the Armenian genocide, where over 1 million Armenians were killed in a genocide. This is the first big genocide in the 20th century. And what the Turkic Muslim political authorities don't want is for any Christian group to have political agency. And so if you have an Armenian state or you have Armenian political institutions that are independent, they find this unacceptable and they want it removed. That is this Armenian Christian population gets in the way, and they are busy with a geopolitical plan. And this is something that needs to be understood. The Armenian Christian political entities get in the way of transportation routes from Europe through the Black Sea to Central Asia, where they're a mineral-rich area. And the world is interested in creating open corridors, free trade, free movement of peoples, and the Christian Armenian population there stands in the way.
Well, that's a horrible way of seeing themselves. But we will continue with John Eibner. Coming back, it's That Kevin Show. Very special report from Washington on some spiritual freedom issues for people that just want to practice their faith.
From New York, That
doesn't seem, though, John, just in having this discussion and in my past discussions with Joel, it doesn't seem that the Christians in Nagorno-Karabakh were interested in disrupting anything or hurting anybody, that they were just going about life as they have for centuries in that city, and that it was their mere presence that was the offense to the Muslims, to the Turkic sensibilities, and to the Azerbaijani people. It seems racist. It seems ethnic. It's not a genocide, I guess, if they're not killing people, but it certainly seems very unjust to what a Western mind would be used to.
Well, sure, but it actually conforms to the definition, legal definition of genocide. You don't have to kill people for it to be genocide. Mass displacement, removing people from their homeland, is an act of genocide in law. But I don't think we should get hung up on legal definitions. What has happened is what we call ethno-religious cleansing. People that belong to one community are driven out from their homeland, and there's a political reason for it, that these people get in the way. The Muslim Turkic peoples believe that is entitled, that they're entitled to this land, and they wish to be able to control it and not to have an alien, from their point of view, Armenian Christian political presence there. So they are trying to put pressure. They've already eliminated the people from Nagorno-Karabakh, and they want to put such pressure on what is now the Republic of Armenia, a very weak, less than 3 million people, so that it ceases to be an Armenian Christian entity. Those that are listening to us will understand something about Israel. Mm-hmm. Israel is a Jewish state. It was created to be a homeland for Jews, especially after the Holocaust, after the genocide. The Armenian Republic was formed similarly after the genocide in Turkey to be the one country where Armenians can live safely as Armenians and as Christians, and that is now being eroded. That stands in the way. So Armenia's situation in the world is not altogether unlike that of Israel.
So what you're saying is that Azerbaijan and the people that prop them up, and I think it's more than Turkey, I think Russia and others have had intentions to help them in the past. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but their goal, if I'm understanding you correctly, would be to see the Republic of Armenia be wiped out as well?
Yes, they would like to see the Republic of Armenia wiped out as a Armenian Christian entity. Maybe they would say, well, keep the name, but one of their demands is that hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijani Muslims should be able to go to the Republic of Armenia. They're demanding free movement of not only goods, but people, because they can take over, they can actually buy Armenia. Yeah. Armenia has few natural resources. It's a poor, weak country. So there are two ways in which they can eliminate it. One is through more acts of violence. They can do salami tactics with military actions. Now we take this piece of land. They see that the United States and the rest of the world accepts it, doesn't do anything. Then they take another piece. Or they can also do it without applying military force. If the state, as a Christian ethnic Armenian state, is weakened, they can do it through economics. They can buy it. They can have mass migration to Armenia. And if the Armenians were to try to stop that, then the Armenians would be hauled to international courts and so on for violating the human rights of Muslims.
This sounds very, very lopsided against the Armenian people, and this is why you and other leaders are speaking up. We're speaking with John Eibner, who is the international chief head bottle washer of everything for CSI globally, and this is not unfamiliar territory for him. He often engages world leaders on these types of issues. John, an administration can make a huge difference in the U.S., And when President Trump was here 4 years ago, he seemed to be very concerned, and he seemed to prioritize by way of people, with former Senator Brownback and others in key positions, to address some of the injustices in these types of matters. With the new administration, with Vice President Vance, Secretary Rubio at State, and others, I have a sense that they may be more open to helping with this than maybe.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
I want to give my listeners and viewers a little bit of an idea of one other curveball that makes this a little bit tricky, and that is if you were to look at a map and say Armenia would be somewhere in this region and Azerbaijan borders it, then Nagorno-Karabakh is all the way down here in the south, and it's kind of isolated on all sides by Azerbaijan. That's not typically a geographical positioning that is ever worked out in favor of the one that is surrounded by the other. Are there any other options that, because let's say that they repossess it and then they're given peace for a period of time. What's to say that in 60 years, Azerbaijan says, forget that old agreement, we're surrounding you, you're all going to die. They could make that kind of move in an instant without anybody being able to do anything about it simply because of the geography.
Sure. If you live in that part of the world, it's an unstable, dangerous part of the world, and has been in the past, will be in the future. So there can be no eternal guarantees that there's peace and security. They have, they're surrounded by Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Iran. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're in a tough place. But the question for us is it possible? Can a Christian community have its own political independence, its own state in that environment? It's not altogether unlike the environment in which the state of Israel was created.
That's true. It is much smaller. Yeah, it's much smaller. And you look at just the three countries that you named. I mean, Azerbaijan is largely propped up by the Russians. Iran, we're very familiar with what the clerics do there. And then Turkey has increasingly become kind of an antagonistic ally at best in NATO and in American and Western interests. So it is a very rough situation. John, last question. A lot of people of faith listen and watch. What would your request be of American Christians in this moment?
Okay, well, there's the one request that we always make is that people pray. And this is something that when we travel to Karabakh and other parts of the world, this is the request. People want their brothers and sisters in Christ in America, Europe, or whatever, to keep them in prayer, to become informed. Because if American Christians are not informed, how can they possibly act politically to respond to the situation?
Truly.
And then if you are an American congressman, you're always looking to what your constituents are saying and doing. So I've just come back from a congressional office, and I have connections with that constituency. And there are a lot of Christian churches there. The member of Congress is a Christian and looks to see what the people care about. And if they see that nobody cares about the suffering parts about the body of Christ, then that member is likely to turn attention to other things. Yeah. It's not bad will. It's just that they have other fish to fry. And it's up to us to let our lawmakers know, starting locally, so locally that you have to talk to your pastor. Talk to your pastor first. Your congressman will look to see what the pastors in his district are saying about things. And then, of course, it moves up ultimately to the president and the president's people. They'll be looking to see what the people care about. The Swiss Peace Initiative came as a result of one member of the Swiss parliament, a Christian, going back to tell the other members of the parliament, and then they passed a resolution that had support from the right, left, and center, saying, we insist that the Swiss government offers its good services to have this dialogue between the victims and those that persecuted them. It can be as simple as that, one person taking the initiative. In this case, it happened to be a Christian who was shocked by what they saw and heard, and ended up being able to persuade the whole Swiss parliament to vote with the majority to insist that their government act on it. Can we not do the same?
Well, that's an excellent question. And I know that your efforts go beyond the borders of the United States. Are there other Western countries that are indicating support?
Yes, well, certainly at the parliamentary level, the UK Parliament, there are some outstanding Christians, but others have joined them. They've made a public statement saying that they support the Swiss Peace Initiative for Nagorno-Karabakh. I haven't actually read it. Somebody just showed me an article in Le Figaro magazine in France, calling on the French government to support the Swiss Peace Initiative, and we'll be taking this to Germany and trying to build a body of support, because the Swiss government, while it has the tradition of conflict resolution and so on, they always look to see, are they going to be alone?
Yeah. Who else is on board?
Who else is on board?
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting thing. One of the first questions that we have when we go to any congressional office or the State Department, one of the first questions that is already asked, have you spoken to these people? Have you spoken to those people? What did they say about it? And the same is true with the Swiss government. They have a mandate to do something, but will they be energetic about doing it, or will they really not put any energy into it? And for energy, they have to see, yes, the United States, at the very least, has no problem with it, but there'll be more energy if they see, the United States would like us to fulfill this role. Or yes, the UK would like us to fulfill this role, or the French or the Germans would like us to fulfill the role. That will energize and make them be proactive on the issue. They will not do much of anything if they feel that nobody is interested, or possibly even the Western world is against what they're trying to do.
That makes total sense. John Eibner, Dr. Eibner, thank you for all that you're doing to raise our awareness about this issue. I would encourage people to do just as you've requested. Friends, please pray. Talk to your pastors, talk to your government leaders. In fact, if you'd like to call your congressman or woman, it's 202-224-3121. That's the switchboard. I memorized that number years ago because I realized that if I ever wanted to make a difference, I was going to have to talk to people that could. It's a good thing to do, 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121, and speak up for the Swiss Peace Initiative as it relates to Armenia and the city of Nagorno-Karabakh and what is happening there. And if you can't spell Nagorno-Karabakh, that's fine. Just say you would like them to express support for the Swiss Peace Initiative.
Ready or not, we'll be right back.